And we're live. It is, I guess it's Thursday, July 31st, the year of our Lord 2025. It is 8 o'clock a.m., and I want to pause a moment to marvel over the wonders of technology. I am sitting in a hotel lobby. There'll be some background noise today. I'm not even apologizing for it. It is not a studio. It is not configured to do live streaming. And yet, with a mere Chromebook and a $200 microphone, and I could do it without my little trusty travel mic, which is, by the way, itself a marvel of modern science. This little portable Shure microphone. It takes about, this whole setup takes about 30 seconds to put together. I'm literally running this off of a disposable Razor kind of Chromebook. And I plug in my mic and I go to Riverside, and I am producing not studio quality sound, I know, but if you could have produced this in a studio a few years ago, um, uh, that would be, you'd kill for this kind of sound coming out of a, uh, uh, from the street, basically. But, you can now produce a television show live anyway. And by the way, if this hotel didn't have Wi-Fi, I could do this from my phone. You'd have a little bit more issues. You've seen, and sometimes we've had Ruth Marcus um, uh, um, do it from a moving train. Now, John Hawkinson points out that he feels like a few years ago was COVID and we had the same audio quality available. But I want to make a distinction here because during COVID, we were not mobile, and we could refine our local workstations to get pretty good audio sound. Although I want to point out, not quite as good as this, because we did COVID first from Zoom, and Zoom actually has a significantly less good quality audio and video than Riverside. That's why we use Riverside. And then we used Crowdcast from which was a function of which was an intermediary step. So people are claiming my video does not look wonderful. There's two possible reasons for that. One is it's smudged, and so I am using my thumb to clean it. And the second possibility is that it could be a bandwidth issue emanating from the quality of the hotel Wi-Fi. So I'm not saying, look, I'm not saying all is perfect, but guys, you are watching a live television show coming to you from a hotel lobby with a total value of less than $1,000 worth of equipment. I mean, the microphone is probably worth almost as much as the um, um, computer, but then um, uh, hang on, because when um, when the video will correct in the actual published version of this. So the video that you're seeing is limited by the quality of the bandwidth, but what the computer is recording is actually high quality video. So if you watch this on either YouTube or later on, or Substack, you will see it. It will be much crisper. And so now I am not sure I understand what Lior's point is about the Riverside censoring the podcast. But if what that is a reference to is that the cactuses are the cactus audio gets filtered out by Riverside, no apologies. I mean, if people who are listening to this on the podcast or are hearing it, watching it later on YouTube, can't hear the cactuses, and that creates a little bit of a mystery about, hey, what's going on in the live stream? And that creates a little incentive for people to come into the light, become paid subscribers, and watch the show live. I'm really okay with that, actually. Let the hoi polloi believe that the cactuses are not really talking, and that Holly and I are being, I don't know, fantasists about talking cactuses. You all know that the cactuses are for real. All right. All of which is a long-winded way of saying that, the sun is shining. It is brutally hot outside, although less so than yesterday. And it's going to rain. There's going to be relief today. It's going to be a great frickin' day, guys. And you are watching Dog Shirt TV. It is a goddamn revolution in morning television. And one of the revolutionary features, of which I assure you there are many, is that the show comes to you from wherever I happen to be. Hotel lobbies, moving trains, whatever. And another one of the revolutionary features is that we can go head to head with Fox and Friends and Morning Joe and all of that with just a Chromebook and a microphone. And, I don't know. I don't know what to say. We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to produce our own television, much, I must say, to the annoyance of the poor people who have to share this cafe with me, including most particularly the people who work here and did not sign up for that. All right. So on the show today, Mike Feinberg will drop in a few minutes. And until then, guys, the floor is yours. Who wants to show up and has something on his or her mind? Haven't heard from John Hawkinson in a while. And Carol T, always happy to, of course, talk Japanese history, but someone's got to show up, and I'm just going to. So Doug asks about the type and spec of Chromebooks. So the answer is any Chromebook will run Riverside just fine as long as you do it from Chrome. Riverside has a heavy Chrome bias. It will also run on Edge, I believe, but it runs on just about any Chromebook I've ever used, and I only travel with Chromebooks for security reasons. Jeff, it's not a burner Chromebook in that I don't leave it behind. I don't burn it. I kind of use it until there's a reason not to, and then, brick it and throw it out. But there are good security reasons for me to, I don't travel with anything that has memory of any size. And so that's a For all my enemies, that's an insight into my cybersecurity strategy. Carol, it's great to see
Hi,
you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? I'm not quite awake fully. I was going to
Oh, I'm
bow
not
out on
either,
the
but that's
something
my
on his
usual
her
state
mind
at
thing.
this.
I'm not sure I have anything on my mind. Not sure it's fully working. But, the words Japanese history will always bring me in.
Indeed. Well, that's why I said them. Uh, what is, but it's your job when the words Japanese history are said to not merely materialize, but to materialize with something to say.
I the place that I live, which is now it's a retirement community, and we have like programs, and they asked me to talk about something, and they kind of left it open. So I said I would talk about Japanese history. And I'm wondering if the chat people can give me some ideas about what kinds of things people would be interested in hearing about. I mean, and obviously you and Mike, but because it's
Well,
kind of hard to. Japanese history is such a huge
it's such a
thing.
big topic. Um, I think you want to go with something that seems completely obscure, and that would have nobody would have any reason to know about or be thinking about or anything, but in fact is immediately relevant to what's going on here today. Um, and that's you know, those are the magics that you can do in talks, like you didn't know that you wanted to hear about so and so, but he was the Stephen Miller of his day and in during the Tokugawa shogunate.
I could always do Yoshitsuna, the dog shogun, who criminalized the mistreatment of dogs.
Well, what did he think about dog shirts?
I'm not sure that it occurred to him about dog shirts. I imagine he would have been a big fan.
Yeah, I think going with that would make a lot of sense. Notice, by the way, everybody, Carol's lawfare shirt, which I just want to call out to you all as a model of sartorial good thinking. And since she didn't know she was coming on the show today, I want to say is almost certainly reflective of just her general sartorial excellence. And I want to encourage you all to visit thelawfarestore.com and dress more like Carol.
Notice it is black, but also it is advertising because people frequently ask me, "What is lawfare?" And I explain and I give you guys a plug.
This is why we have the shirts. It is um it's an important thing. Hello, Mike Feinberg.
I have to tell you
Morning.
real quick. Sorry, Mike.
No worries.
I was wearing it, and somebody here said, "Oh, lawfare. Ben Wittes was nice to me once."
Really?
Hmm. Hmm.
Do we know what kind of person this was?
He's been an activist. He lived in Cambridge, and another MIT. Well, he didn't graduate, but he left because he wanted to work with small computers, and they didn't have much on when he was there. And he said that he'd been to some kind of talk where there were a lot of people from, big organizations and big important people. And he had a question, and he felt fairly um, diffident about it because he was nobody. And apparently, you were very cordial and welcoming of his suggestions, of his questions, which didn't surprise me at all, of course. But
Interesting. I have no idea who you could be talking about.
I
And but I
didn't
like
think you
the
would. I just,
Ben Wittes was nice to me once. Because that's actually how I know Mike Feinberg. Because I
I, I
was,
was I was gonna say you do have a tendency to be welcoming to individuals who come up to you at random talks. So
or who write me out of nowhere about their dog's listening habits. Um,
yes, yes.
um, yeah. So look. the whole be nice to strangers thing is a good rule of thumb. I get a lot of requests for meetings from people, and I have a very strict rule about them, which is everybody gets one meeting unless they're a salesperson, right? So like if you write to me on LinkedIn saying that you want to talk to me about, how you can magnify my podcast sales, I reserve the right to just block you. But if you're a student or somebody, in a professional context, or particularly a recent college grad or something, everybody gets one meeting. You have to earn the second meeting. Like there has to be some reason for me to meet with you a second time. And this is, like if we're being honest about it, this is how I met Quinta Jurecic, actually. Quinta wrote me a cold email asking me if I would sit for an interview with her for her senior thesis. And I agreed to do it because everybody gets one meeting. And so most of the time, I would say the one meeting is not a waste of my time because it's some young person or not so young person whom you're helping out in some way, and that's a good thing to do, but it's not something that I can independently show value to myself about other than I like to be a good person, that sort of thing. But, I would say about 20% of the time, the um, value is material to me in that I can identify, like, I recruit a new lawfare writer, or somebody gets on my radar screen for being a student contributor when he or she ends up in law school or whatever, or somebody has some unique work to do for lawfare. And then I would say, a quarter of 1% of the time, the person turns out to be Quinta Jurecic. And so like I do think there's a, you know, the basic rule that like when somebody shows up or wants to talk to you after a speech or during a panel or whatever, that you just, you know, give people a chance, is it's a good rule of thumb, and you're not going to succeed at it 100% of the time because you're busy, and some people may rub you the wrong way, and you know you get a weird vibe from them and you respond badly to that, as humans do. But the percentage of the time that it's actually works out is not trivial, and the other percent of the time, which is that somebody later runs into Carol and says, "Oh, lawfare, Ben Wittes was nice to me once." That's actually kind of gratifying. So uh, um, uh, and I know that there will be somebody who listens to this who I was not nice to, because that always happens. And somebody is going to post on Blue Sky or on Twitter, well, I did this and Ben Wittes was an asshole to me once. And this happened actually, literally, and this will amuse Mike Feinberg, because somebody who I who got a first meeting and didn't get a second meeting, um, said something nasty about it in public once. And Sophia Yan on Twitter, back in the day that we were all on Twitter, went medieval on this person. And so I'm just saying, if you're out there and you asked for a meeting and you didn't get one, I'm sorry. I'm not 100% perfect, and I do work on it. I do try to give everybody one meeting, but I know there are some people out there. I just don't read all my emails. Sometimes it's nothing personal, and try again. And also, if you're out there and I was mean to you, I'm sorry. That's what I got. It's July 31st. We've gone through 20 minutes of the show, and I've apologized to people I've never met for random slights that I probably didn't intend.
Before I go, I just want to say one more quick thing. Um, Finding one Quinta Jurecic is worth years and years of meeting lots of useless people.
Absolutely right. And here's the thing about Quinta Jurecic when I met her, and I've told this story a million times. And um, so here's the thing about meeting Quinta. For some reason, I did not, um, when I agreed to meet with her, I did not, the name Quinta Jurecic is a little bit obscure. It's got this, South Slavic, uh, um, it's got this sort of South Slavic last name and this name that I don't know why I assumed Quinta was male because the A at the end of Quinta is almost in all languages, almost always a giveaway of a female name. But for some reason, I, you know, I had this sense like, who is this person? And was kind of vague. And I wrote it down in my calendar. I put it on my calendar and then promptly forgot about it. And so it's the day that we're meeting, and I had kind of forgotten who this person was. And I had this vague expectation that this young man was going to show up in my office and interview me about his thesis. And then but I like didn't know anything about who the person was, and I'd kind of forgotten the subject of the thesis. And so Quinta walks in, and I'm like my mind was really busy with other things, and it takes me about 10 minutes of being asked questions by her to realize, first of all, that um, you know, oh, this person is a formidable mind, like probably smarter than I am, and I need to have my A game on because I actually don't really know the answers to some of these questions. And by the end of the conversation, I was just completely blown away by her. And I told her she was like a junior, or it was the summer of her junior year in college. And I was like, keep in touch. You should come, I don't know what you're going to do when you graduate, but let's be in touch. And when she graduated, she came and interned for Lawfare and, kind of never left until a few days ago. So yeah, always give people a meetings.
I'm
Um,
a big fan of hers.
yeah, no, she's very impressive. Um, yeah, Holly points out in the chat that that's exactly what I thought when I met her, which is this is a formidable mind and probably smarter than me. Let me tell you what I actually thought when I first met Holly, who had stalked me on the internet and invited me to a party at the French embassy to celebrate the French Village and the French Village podcast. I thought, huh, I don't understand who this person is. That was what I really thought when I first met Holly, because she was well connected enough to get me and Sarah Longwell an invitation to the French Village thing at the French embassy, but she was also like kind of an internet stalker, and I had no idea that she worked for the CIA, and then I became increasingly aware of her as she made these Bulwark parody videos, and and so I was I I have to admit I found Holly confusing.
Okay, I just have to
Thanks.
defend
I'm
myself.
leaving. Bye bye.
Oh, hey,
Take
Carol.
care, Carol.
First of all, I'm really sorry that I overslept today, which is not
No, no,
intentional.
no. But what you should be sorry about is that your gain is very low, and you need to turn that up because I can't hear you.
How's that?
A little better, but it actually sounds to me like the problem is coming from the computer.
Why don't I
Um,
just
like,
I'm just gonna unplug this and try that. Is that better?
Well, that is louder.
Anyway,
Uh,
I'll
I
keep
will
the
configure your mic when I'm back in town.
Okay. Also, do I put this on the mic or not? It has a little like, I don't know. It's like a mic condom. So I put on the mic or
It is a mic condom, although, I
That's
do
a
want to
weird thing
urge.
to say when somebody named Mike is in the dialogue.
I will also
Point
just
that out
say
there.
Mike.
to all the microphones who listen to this, do not use mic condoms as birth control methods because they are permeable, and so it's not. Mic condoms are very appropriate for wind screening, but not really
Oh, is that
useful
what it's
as
for? Okay.
prophylactic. It's to prevent this.
Oh, so do you use it or not?
I do.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll put it back. Anyway, just to defend myself, I am not an internet stalker at all. Okay. I was a bulwark, was and am, and now am a bulwark contributor. I was
Yes,
a fan, and honestly, the only reason I even paid you any mind, Benjamin Wittes, is because you were on a podcast with Sarah Longwell.
Look, I'm not criticizing you for being an internet stalker. Some
I'm
of my
not.
best friends are internet
I'm
stalkers.
not an internet stalker.
Can I just ask you a series of yes or no questions?
Okay.
Question number one, do you now or have you ever described yourself in public as a Bulwark superfan?
Yes.
Okay. Question number two, do you make parody videos of the Bulwark and send them individually to
This feels like a
Bulwark
push pull,
staff?
Ben.
Yes. But actually,
Okay. No. These are just yes or no questions.
Yeah, Holly, you agreed to the cross exam. You have nobody but yourself to blame where this is going.
Do you contact individual members of the Bulwark to introduce yourself and say hi? And
no. Actually, no.
You've never done that?
They've all contacted me. I did contact you because I needed your help with something specifically. I wasn't stalking you. I just needed some legal advice.
Okay. And
not because I was in trouble, for research purposes.
Yeah. I understand. And do you go to all the Bulwark events and introduce yourself to people?
Well, first of all, everybody knows me now, so let me just correct the record. So let me just say, JVL, they contacted me. I put my parody out there on the interwebs, my first one, and I had already met in person Mona and Sarah and you, and then I put and then they all contacted me. And I sent the video to their general just like Bulwark at Bulwark, just to make sure. I didn't want to be I want to make sure before I put it out that it wasn't like offensive or like somehow unintentionally offensive. What is that sound? It sounds like cicadas are invading. Does anyone else
I
hear
don't know. Is it coming from my end? Let's see if I mute
know.
myself. Does it go
Ben.
away?
No, it's Holly.
Whoops. I think it's coming from you, Holly.
Okay.
It's God's way of saying that you're digging yourself in a hole.
No, it's not. Anyway, it went away. Anyway, they contacted me to be like, "Oh, Holly, you're so amazing. Who are you, Holly?" And
you should
then
see the back Slack traffic about that. How do we handle this one? Do we flatter her? I think it was, oh well, be nice, and
No.
maybe she won't hurt any of us.
Anyway, all of them contacted me, and they all wanted to be my friend. So So that's how it
Okay.
went. Now I did message you through Instagram, I think it was, or one of these things, because I had exhausted all of my other potential legal experts, and I was looking for something for my book. And you were so kind, and you not only did you message me back right away. I reminded you we had already met, like at the French embassy, so you didn't think I was weird. Well, I mean, I am weird, but and then you immediately like, let's chat on the phone. So we called, and you helped me, and you connected me with someone. And anyway, I eventually got there, and you were helpful. And then I had your number, and see, that is a mistake when you give me your number. So, because then I
All
will
right.
text.
I think the facts are all now out there, and everyone can decide for him or her or themselves whether Holly's behavior is reasonably described as that of a ebullient CIA analyst, a stalker, a super fan, or all of the above.
All of the above.
Um,
But I am confusing. I will say that I'm confused. I agree.
I would say that you are great, and it's great fun, and I say stalker with affection, and I have a bunch of stalkers, and I only hate one of them. Um, but although that one involves enough bile and passion on my part to cover several others. Mike Feinberg, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there.
Do you have any stalkers?
Not that I know of. I mean, not that are not well intentioned.
Oh yeah, no. I
That,
mean,
Like,
most,
like when
that's
like,
not
like
a
I don't.
good standard.
No, but I don't have any stalkers who cause me concern or displeasure or even minor annoyance.
well, we're gonna have to keep working on that because if you're Mike Feinberg and you're not attracting stalkers yet, let's just say your work on this planet is not
Not
done.
yet done. All right.
Well, Ben, it
John
could well
Hawkinson,
be.
what is on your mind this morning?
I'll just point out it could well be that the stalkers have good OPSEC. I assume my audio is atrocious, but perhaps understandable.
Yes.
You're comprehensible.
Good.
Okay. So I had two thoughts on Emil Boie. One is a question and one is a comment, and I'll leave it to you which to go first.
Oh, do the comment first.
So the comment was I somehow had missed that he was Emil Boie the third, and
Correct.
at least in some of the vampire fiction that I've read, there's a tradition of vampires passing themselves off as their offspring, and so it just struck me that perhaps the third is an indication that he's been living a long life, with an unchanging appearance, masquerading as a generation after generation, and that's the comment.
Well, I have a different theory about Emil Bovie's appearance. And I do, as a general matter, have a near religious principle about not talking about people's appearances. But I waive it in the case of Emil Boie because I'm honestly not sure that he's human at all. And the undead thing, I do think when we're talking about the undead, there's a license to talk about the appearance. But
Well, they're not
jokes
going to say Ben Wittes was nice to the undead once.
right, exactly. So here's the question that I've had about it, which is whether this is like a Dorian Gray backwards situation.
There's a picture in his attic getting prettier every day.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
picture is getting it doesn't age and reflects a beautiful young Emil Boie, but the spell has been cut the wrong direction so that everything, the picture, every ugly thought the picture has, every bad thing the picture does, actually ages and Klaus Kinski-izes the real Emil Boie.
There's a simpler explanation though, provided by, as most things are provided by, French literature, which is there's this great Camus quote from The Fall, gets translated a couple different ways, but it's basically, at a certain age, every man has the face he deserves. And that is literally the first thing that came to mind when I saw what Emil Boie looked like after I had dealt with him from afar about a decade ago, but it was only when he became PDAG or acting DAG for some time that I got to know what he looked like. And that's the quote that came to mind instantly.
There you go.
Well, okay, that's fascinating. I'll point out, Ben.
Did you, Mike? Did you learn that about that in the Camus course at Quantico?
It was a general existentialism course. It wasn't limited to Camus. You know, we started with some of the philosophical forerunners, did a little bit of Kierkegaard, jumped into Camus and Sartre.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, I'll say, consistent with that theory, of a spell gone wrong, sometimes those are also known as a deal with the devil. So my sort of more realistic or more serious question was, I stopped to think and ask, if we presume hypothetically, without impugning at all the man, that he is in some way maximally corrupt, what is the degree of damage that he could do as a Court of Appeals judge compared to as a senior executive in the Department of Justice? And it kind of seemed to me like it's really hard. I'm having a really hard time thinking of things that a single Court of Appeals judge can do that are terribly damaging, unlike a district court judge, where I could think of some things, even though I think they're less bad than a senior executive in DOJ. So I'm curious about your thinking on that question of damage, which is different from sort of the question of what he deserves and whether he ought to be confirmed. But from a sort of purely realpolitik evaluation, what could happen?
Well, it is funny that you should ask that question, because just this morning I wrote a column on the subject on exactly this question, which has yet to be edited, much less posted. But I'm going to do something that I never do, which is I'm going to read to you from a draft column, because it is directly responsive to your question. Confirming corrupt judges, and yes, I am accusing Boie of being corrupt, is never defensible for a senator. But if all of this looking away at Bovie's misconduct merely had the effect of kicking him upstairs into coldish storage on a court of appeals and taking him out of frenetic action in the executive branch, I would oppose it vigorously in public. There is a principle here, after all, but allow myself a private little sigh of relief. If I'm being honest, I don't actually think the Third Circuit Court of Appeals is a terrible place to put Boie in cold storage. The man in his current role is a menace. He has done immense institutional damage to the Justice Department in a short period of time. And while some of that damage would have happened anyway, his particular zeal for the hatchet manning of it all does seem to have had a catalytic effect. The problem, we think of federal appeals court judgeships as particularly powerful positions, and there's a sense in which they are. But on the Third Circuit, Boie will never be more than one vote among three. He will always be subject to outvoting, to reversal both by the en banc court and by the Supreme Court. And the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, in any event, is not the locus of much litigation involving his boss, from most of which he would presumably be recused anyway. The problem is that Boie is going places. One must regard him at this point as a prohibitive favorite for any Supreme Court nomination Trump gets to make in his second term. Boie is young, He is smart and capable, and he has performed any number of valued services for President Trump, both inside the administration and as his personal lawyer. He is a league slicker and better qualified than Judge Eileen Cannon, the district court judge in Florida, who so unsubtly and almost without pretense, really, threw the classified documents criminal case Trump's way. She is bumblingly corrupt. He, by contrast, is pretty good at the whole thing. The talented Mr. Boie, one might say. So, yeah, I am with you. I think if it were just a matter of a Third Circuit nomination, I would say, Philadelphia and New Jersey, Delaware, fuck them. They can have him.
Don't forget Mike Chagaris.
Yeah, get him out of the Justice Department. There are a lot of bad judges. He won't be worse than some of the existing worst. But I do think that's a roll of the dice that you have to tell me what the composition of the Senate will look like when Trump tries to elevate him before that's a viable bet.
I guess the problem I have with this analysis, and I kind of heard this idea before, is it doesn't seem to me at all necessary for him to have served as a Court of Appeals judge or any Article 3 judge before being elevated to the Supreme Court. And I mean, maybe it's politically unrealistic to imagine Trump nominating non-judges to the Supreme Court, but it doesn't seem very far-fetched to me. Certainly not along the lines, when we look at the scope of things that Trump has done that already seemed abnormal, that's hardly worth anything.
So I agree with that. It's not a necessary step, but it is a facilitating step when people do judicial nominees. Remember, this is somebody who could only get confirmed, who had 49 votes against him as it is. You give him another year or two in the Justice Department, and, maybe Tom Tillis is out of office. Maybe Boie has had a chance to do some things that piss some more people off, right? And so I do think, the safest place if you want to cook a Supreme Court judge and, bake him until he's done is a Court of Appeals. All three of Trump's nominees have been courts of appeals judges. And so I do think you're talking about, he's not currently in the right place to marinate him, and now he is.
Fair enough. I also feel obliged to footnote the possibility of Court of Appeals judges sitting by designation as district court judges, which is a thing they can do, and that requires some approval. I think it's the federal the Committee on Inter-Circuit Assignments, though maybe it's different if you're within circuit, and other judges would have to go along, and I don't know what the administrative process for that really is. But nonetheless, I think your point is fair. I have to think about how to weigh it. I do.
But my point incorporates your point. That is, I would, if the question is, do I rather that Emil Boie remain where he is as PAYDAG or spend this time on the Third Circuit where he will disappear into the workaday work of a Court of Appeals, and we limit it to that question, then yeah, I do have enough alarm about the Justice Department and enough complacency about what an individual Court of Appeals judge can do that I think it is the less harmful option, but for the validating quality that the Senate confirmation gives to a career of, I'm just going to say it, crime over the last 6 to 8 months, and the possibility of elevation. I do think those are, your point has a lot of merit.
Right. No, I agree. I think this comes down to how we view the crystal ball of the future. And that's
Right.
not something that we can have a kind of reasoned debate about. Sorry, Holly, you were saying.
Correct.
No, not. I don't think just the last 6 to 8 months. Wasn't he all up in the whole insurrection issue as well?
No, he was actually quite a virulent prosecutor against the January 6th defendants until it became not in his interest to be such.
But on the other hand, there were some allegations from his time in SDNY as to management issues.
Yeah,
So,
and he's a dick, but
I think I'm getting him mixed up with who's the other guy that in his January 6th committee hearings had a big panda painting behind him and said that he told this other guy that to get a good lawyer because
well, Alice suggests you mean Ed Martin, although I don't think that's necessarily.
Anyway, I thought that was Bowie, but I guess not. Anyway, sorry about that.
Bovie's problem as a prosecutor was a certain amount of over aggressiveness. It got the government in very big trouble in one case, and a kind of management terrorism against other, particularly paralegals in the SDNY, but the fact that Mike is aware of it suggests that there may have also been some mistreatment of Bureau people.
No, he prosecuted one of my cases. And he prosecuted another case of a very close friend of mine.
This is the one that they withheld material that should have been turned over?
No, he didn't just prosecute counterterrorism cases. He did quite a few counterintelligence cases, and I program managed an investigation from headquarters of an FBI employee who he was charged with 4 counts of 1001 for not being truthful about contacts he had with certain nationals of a foreign country. I'm speaking very vaguely on purpose, and it'll become apparent why in a minute. We all firmly believed there was more there, and there was an utter unwillingness on Beauvais' part to do the hard work that would have gotten us to more substantive charges.
So this was a laziness issue.
Yes.
Interesting.
But an intentional one, maybe.
We think he just was tired of working on the case and wanted to be done.
Of course, laziness issues are also prioritization issues. So without information about what else was on his plate, it is a little harder to tell. And I do hear an awful lot of noise. I think it's from Holly's mic now.
Yeah, I just don't know anybody in the Bureau who worked with him and walked away with a positive experience. And that starts with him as a line-level prosecutor at SDNY, dealing with line-level agents, and it goes up to him being the acting DAG and dealing with the acting director and acting deputy director.
Right, and that stuff is all mostly public. At least a lot of it is public.
A lot of it. I mean, you can extrapolate the tone of what it was like from what's public.
And that behavior is appalling. I mean, demanding information from the acting director and the acting deputy director about individual agents who worked on January 6th related matters, as well as the Trump related matters. And by the way, we call out a lot of lack of heroism on a lot of people's parts. The acting director and acting deputy director behaved very honorably in that situation, and deserve a lot of kudos. And frankly, the fact that this stuff does not cause more than 2 Republican senators to vote against him is, kind of shocking. Just from a how seriously do Republican senators take their oaths kind of perspective. Though I'm long past a point of expectation that the oath of office means anything to these people.
Mike, so were you in the same room with Emil Boie at various points? Have you
No.
ever?
I'm trying to think if we were ever on No, his interactions
I
were
don't think he
pretty
registers
filtered.
on video conference.
Yeah, it's like a mirror. There's
Yeah.
not going to be.
I was gonna say, did the temperature like drop in the room?
I was never in the same room. I don't think I've ever personally interacted with him. We worked on similar matters when we were both considerably in lower positions of our careers, and because I was acting SAC while he was acting DAG, I was in all the meetings with the acting director where what he was doing was relayed to us.
Well, I will say I have spent 6 weeks in a room with him, which was the Trump trial. And I was only in the room. Sometimes I was in the media room sometimes. And so I would, flit in and out. But I will say if you look at the coverage of that, the temperature of the courtroom was notably low. People were freezing. And, correlation is not causation, but
Maybe he could be a solution to climate change. Just send him to like Doha and just let it.
Ben, I have a question. I want to pull on a thread because this is like the second or third time it's happened now. Every time you reference Nosferatu, you go to Kinski instead of Shrek. And I'm just curious why you go with the remake rather than the original.
well, first of all, because Bovey looks like Klaus Kinski. He doesn't look
Okay.
like secondly, because I mean, if look, hold up a picture of the Werner Herzog Nosferatu
Yeah.
played by Klaus Kinski, and next to a picture of Emil Boie, and
Yeah.
it's clearly the same person. And that's not true of the original. So it's not a favoring the remake. It's just a belief in the reality-based universe.
So I have a question. Do you think what comes first? Do you think you're born looking like a Disney villain, and so you think like I guess I'm gonna become a Disney villain, or do you become a Disney villain and then your appearance matches that?
Look, the
He did
casting
not
call
look
for
like
the
this when
Addams
he was
family
young.
is very limited.
I'm sorry, sir, you were talking at the same time.
Mike, go ahead.
He did not look remotely as evil when he was younger. I have seen photos. I know people who were with him. He looked like a normal, healthy sun dweller at one point.
What were you saying, John?
Oh, I was a throwaway joke about the casting call for the Addams family
Hmm.
being
Well,
very
I will
limited.
just say Mary Shelley answered this question in the original Frankenstein. And if you go back to the original Frankenstein, the monster becomes evil because he is born or made looking like a villain, and people are terrified of him. And so it really is a kind of Mean Girls situation, right? Everybody's mean to the monster because he's terrifying looking, and so he starts killing them. And I think, that's a little bit in conflict with what Mike just said about, but I do think you gotta trust the primary sources on this.
I mean, I have to say, this begs the question of whether Beauvais is doing this deliberately in a theatrical fashion. Is he deliberately dressing monochromatically, maybe even applying some makeup to look more dark and sinister?
Well, I did make
could
a
that
get ready
actually-
with me video for Emil Boie.
I mean, is it actually conceivable that, I don't want to say it's a form of vanity, but maybe even a form of humor, a very extremely dark humor? Is that conceivable that he could be in on that?
I do think Stephen Miller is his appearance is intentional. I think I think everything about Stephen Miller is a character that he has donned.
So Stephen Miller is, of course, married to the former Katie Waldman, who was a White House press person. So it's easy to imagine that she has a strong media awareness of his appearance.
When you
I
say
don't know.
was married, are
No,
they still married?
is.
Okay.
Sorry.
But she did change her Twitter description. It used to say "wife of Stephen." That is no longer there.
Well, there are also all sorts of goofy rumors about Elon Musk, but
have at it.
For Elon, she's been very quiet. Is she still with Elon?
I think that's part of the reason why is to avoid. She was still working for Musk when that happened.
Well, I think she went off with Elon. Like when he left the White House, I think she left with him.
No, she's definitely
in a professional sense.
Yeah,
you mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, people have different theories about that. But.
All right, so we have 5 minutes left, and we are slipping into the tawdry gossip department.
I have a
here.
critical show question for you, Ben, which was...
we've gone from vampire shaming Emil Boie to speculating about whether a staffer's relationship with Elon Musk is purely professional. I think this is a new low for Dog Shirt TV.
I want to elevate
and one
you,
we
Ben.
aspire to defeat tomorrow.
I thought that this was supposed to be the week of Mina Allander, and I even went so far as to install both the Swedish and Finnish keyboards on my keyboard so that I could properly type an A ring with ease. And yet she has shown up on none of these days. So did I grossly misunderstand? What has happened?
Well, so what has happened is that Minna has not shown up. And the thing is, as both Holly and Mike can tell you, my form of management is to send a text each morning when I wake up that says something like, who's joining today? And to wait and see who shows up. And you are correct that last week Minna said she would be ubiquitous this week. But this week, you know, she's had meetings. She's had, it's the middle of the afternoon for her. So, you know, days get away from you. And so, you know, I think the answer to your question has to be you gotta ask Minna.
I think it's clear that this show is really dependent on basically refugees from the intelligence community who don't have a whole lot to do anymore, and not on the regular people in the regular world whose employment
who have normal jobs.
Yeah. But you know what? You could probably, in fact, given a few more months, you could probably you could have like
a whole interagency process here.
Just a crowd of co-hosts that are all refugees from the intelligence community.
Well, Holly, I think you realize that if that thesis is correct, that's going to put a pretty strong burden on your shoulder. I don't know, Mike, you haven't revealed, and maybe it's not appropriate to ask, sort of what the scheduling is, but I understand you're going to become super busy super soon.
This is probably my last show for quite some time, actually.
Well, congratulations.
Congrats to Mike. But you know, the show has rested. I don't know what Ben ever did without me, because I think the show has clearly been carried by me for months now. And so it's just, I've enjoyed the vacation offered by Mike Feinberg.
Well, I want to.
I'll be back. I just, you know, it's going to be a couple weeks.
Oh, you have no idea what's about to hit your life.
No, I really don't.
As they say in Scotland, little what you was, come in. Little what you was, come in.
Yeah, and you think Mike Feinberg, FBI, former FBI, you know, hoop-de-hoo, who is like fluent in Mandarin and has read every book in the world, and you know, he thinks he's got this, and he's about to get just like.
No, and Ben, I think I've been quite clear with you in private conversation. I have no idea what is about to hit me. I am very aware of that.
And it's going to flatten you. Just, you know, just plumb out.
Well,
So
the timing
watch.
couldn't be better professionally. So, yeah.
good. Perfect. Perfect.
Folks, we're going to leave it there. We're going to be back tomorrow without Mike Feinberg. We are going to be, maybe there'll be a guest. Maybe there won't. Maybe there'll be
Mina
Holly.
Hollander.
Maybe they'll meet Minna Olander. Maybe Holly will explain to us how the cactus ended up in Riga, in Latvia, yesterday with no explanation. I'm befuddled by that one. But you'll be there. I'll be there. I'll even be home. See you later.